everyone. Welcome to the fourth in a series of Connecticut Independence Caucus candidate interviews. We're here tonight with Will Gregory. Will is a Republican challenger for the 4th Congressional District seat currently held by freshman Congressman Jim Himes. Will is a Stamford native. He grew up in New Canaan. He graduated from Gettysburg College, summa cum laude and Phi Beta Kappa. Congratulations. He has a master's degree in global governance and diplomacy from Oxford University. And he's traveled extensively, and he came back and worked on John McCain's presidential campaign. He's founder and executive director of Mentis Foundation, an education-based nonprofit that provides scholarships for underprivileged youth. And he's an advisor for Core Brands in New York City. And we welcome you this evening, Will, and we're very appreciative that you're willing to interact with the grassroots movement in Connecticut. We know that you attended the Right Principles dinner in September and that you've answered all of the sort of arduous list of vetting questions that we ask people to answer, and we're very pleased that you came here tonight for an interview. I'm going to ask each committee member just to introduce themselves briefly. We'll let you speak for a couple of minutes, and then we'll go through some questions. It should take about an hour. Okay? I'm Sherry. We've met before. I've lived in Easton for 30 years. I come to this seat tonight through the 912ers of Shelton, Connecticut. That's a group that was started by Linda, whom you might have met earlier. She just left. It's grown to over 200 people in less than a year. I'm also a 20-year member of the Easton Republican Town Committee.
My name is Mickey LaCrosse. I've lived in Shelton for over 40 years now, and I've never particularly been politically active until things have started to stir inside me that say it's not right and I need to come to the forefront and become active. So I'm very pleased to be here and to get to know you a little better, Will. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Hector Guerra. We have lived in Shelton for around 7 years. I'm from Cuba, so my background is a little bit different. We're very, very glad you're here today.
Tricia Galloway, 13 years in Trumbull. I've been involved with state issues in Hartford, going to public hearings and testifying and campaigning over the last 5 or 6 years. We got involved with the Tea Party movement and the 912. I'm in a different 912 group, and I've been to many Tea Parties, I think starting in Stamford in March and including D.C. in September, and went down again in November. So I'm very passionate about these issues that are so important to our future.
Hi, I'm Linda Carreri, and I've lived in Stamford most of my life, except for 10 years that I lived in Italy, socialist country. And I'm very glad that you came. I've also been very involved in the 912 group, Southern Connecticut, and also the Independence Caucus. And I'm very glad to see that we have some people who actually believe in our Constitution. Thank you for being here.
And now, Will, if you would just like to introduce yourself briefly to us.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to keep the introduction as brief as possible. You described a fair bit about me. The only thing that I'd add regarding my background that I'd like to be known as well is that I'm also an Eagle Scout. I've always been heavily involved in the community. So this is really just an extension, I think, running for office of the things that I've been doing throughout Fairfield County, but also, a lot of work that I've done overseas and in different parts of the world, some in Central Asia, some in East Africa, some in Latin America even. And I'm very excited to be here, especially with a group of individuals who believes as strongly as I do in the Constitution and in individual liberty and the core principles that our country is founded upon. Now, that's really why I'm in this race, though. It's about public service, and it's about, specifically regarding policy, the fact that I saw the country heading in the wrong direction. And also, I saw my party heading in the wrong direction. I worked for President Bush's 2004 election campaign, and following that, I was very, very frustrated. We walked away from our ideals. We stood for individual liberty, self-determination, fiscal discipline, a lot of really basic core tenets that have been advocated by conservatives for a long time. But in the course of his second term particularly, we expanded the size of government massively. we ran budget deficits. We walked away from what we said we stood for. And subsequently, I worked on Senator McCain's presidential effort, hoping that we would have the opportunity to really get back to those core ideals. What did we do? We doubled down on Bush's second term, and also the principles that Obama is using to expand the size of government further. We supported the bailout. We supported TARP. We supported all those programs in the campaign. That's not good enough. We need people who are going to step forward, take a leadership role, and say enough is enough. Our country is better than to expand the size of government to the point where it encroaches upon everybody's individual choices and lives. So I'm trying to do something about that, and that's what my campaign is really all about.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to have Nikki start with the first question.
Okay, you've kind of touched on this, but formally we'll ask, Will, would you have voted for the TARP or any of the stimulus packages?
I think I can answer that in one word. No.
Okay.
To address TARP, I think you could just, I've heard some say that, it just needs to be tweaked a little, the process wasn't good enough. No, it was flawed in its, in the simple idea of it, but also in the application. Any bill where they say, okay, come forward, here's a 3-page form to fill out. I think there were 8 lines where you wrote in what it was that you wanted the money for. I mean, we're not talking like 20, 30 bucks. We're talking about 20 or 30 billion bucks. That's a lot of money. All the CEO had to do was sign it, have the CFO sign it, and boom, you had that much cash. That's not right. I mean, by any stretch of the imagination. So I would have opposed that straight off the bat. The stimulus, I mean, don't even get me started. The stimulus wasn't about stimulating the economy. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with essentially trying to ram through as many earmarks, as much pork barrel spending as they possibly could, while also masquerading like they were doing something constructive with the economy. I would advocate the repeal of the remaining stimulus. I think there's 70% that is yet to be allocated. Take that off. I'm also really concerned about inflation and the fact that as that money starts coming online and as the Fed starts or continues printing money to meet that demand, we're going to see really out of control inflation that's going to require significantly increased interest rates to keep that in check, which is going to have a negative impact on the economy as a whole.
Do you believe energy independence is compatible with the free trade?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. I don't see what would make them, personally, incompatible. I think that a critical aspect of moving towards not only energy independence, but just getting the country on track with regard to energy. I think we need to use a lot of our partners, a lot of their resources as well. Technology is one aspect, and if there are other countries out there that have the capacity to influence our ability to augment our current technologies and also find solutions that would work well and be compatible with the U.S., I think that's fantastic. So yes.